Hello, I'm television and radio presenter Rob McKnight. Welcome to Media McKnight. Well, despite early resistance, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has called a royal commission into the Bondi terror attack after a sustained campaign by Australia's major newspapers. Now, whether you agree with the idea of a royal commission or not, it does show traditional media still holds a lot of power, and they're not afraid to use that power during tragic events. In fact, last night on McKnight Tonight, I spoke about the politics surrounding the shooting of Renee Good by an ICE agent in the US. While things aren't as extreme here, it is worth noting how the Bondi tragedy was used to score political points. Look no further than the headlines surrounding the host of 7:30, Sarah Ferguson. Ferguson's perceived crime was daring to ask a former politician if he was motivated by a possible political comeback over the leadership role he took on behalf of Jews after the massacre. ABC's Sarah Ferguson sinks to new low during Josh Frydenberg interview, screamed the headline on Sky News Australia. But just how bad was the question? Let's go to the video.
And I'm focused on actions and results. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your political persuasion is. I don't care if you're Calathumpian, for goodness sake. All I'm focused on is the safety of Australians. It's the first and fundamental duty of our Prime Minister, of our premiers, and they have failed.
One final question to you. It's widely viewed as inevitable that you will return to politics. How do we not see this through a political lens? I mean, the case that you're making, a personal case against the Prime Minister.
I'm deeply offended by what you just said. I'm deeply offended.
Explain that.
And you know what? Mm-hmm. There was a man called Murray Watt who sits on the Labor front bench who tried to say that about a year ago. And then Labor ministers like Mike Kelly and others, hear me out, who came out and said exactly what I'm about to say, that is an insult. That is an insult to say that there's any political motivation in this.
It's a question.
No, Sarah, the reality is this. I'm an Australian who has to have personal security because my life is endangered in this country. And I was the treasurer of this country. My children go to a school where there are armed guards outside. When I visit a Jewish aged care centre, there are armed guards outside. When I send my kids to Jewish sporting clubs, there are police cars out there and police tape. How should we live with this? Why should we live with this? So if I'm not going to speak out, who is? If not now, when? If not me, who? The reality is this was an attack on Jewish Australians, but this is a threat to every Australian.
To be clear, my question was about the framing of what you are saying. I'm not making assertions. I'm not copying what anybody else is saying.
And Sarah, and you asked me the question and I gave you my answer.
I don't see anything wrong with the question. He's a politician. She saved that question until the very end, but I reckon she had to ask him whether he was looking at a return to politics. He has come to the forefront. Everything he says about security, needing police, his kids needing armed guards outside their school, all very valid. And I believe he is genuine in what he is saying about the fears he has as a Jewish Australian. But that doesn't mean that in some part of his mind, he isn't thinking this has been a good way to come back to the forefront of politics in this country. Because in fact, the very same outlet that had a go at Sarah Ferguson for having asked that question reports Frydenberg is set to return to politics. According to the report by Andrew Clennell and Oscar Godsell, former Treasurer Josh Frydenberg has told senior party members he intends to make a return to federal politics. According to multiple Liberal sources, the senior Jewish leader has indicated a desire to contest Kooyong in 2028 after losing the seat to Teal independent Monique Ryan in 2022. And even opposition leader Susan Lee apparently welcomes a return to politics by Frydenberg. So in the context of all that, why is it so outrageous and a new low to ask him if it should be looked at in a political sphere, in a political way? I don't think that's outrageous to ask a former politician, because let me tell you, and I'm not speaking about Josh Frydenberg here, but politicians will use every opportunity to push their wares, to push a re-election. Not every politician is a clean skin, and why shouldn't we ask a politician that question? It is completely ridiculous of the media to pile on the ABC just because they hate the ABC, because Sarah Ferguson dared to ask this question. Like, seriously. And look, while we're talking about the tragedy at Bondi, I'd like to defend this unfortunate moment on Channel 9, which has received a lot of criticism.
Ben, thank you
Can
very
I just,
much.
before we go, I'd love to list the lifeguards who are...
But we don't have time for that. I'm
All
really
right, no
sorry.
worries, that's
But
all right.
no, thank you so much for coming on. Ali, I think we'll just leave it there. There is hope, and Bondi will overcome.
And I love what Ben was saying there, and just really sums that up, that idea of like this they will not ruin what this place represents, and they will fight. The local community here will fight back, and it takes the fact that you had really special people like our lifesavers yesterday afternoon. When you hear those gunshots and we know what our instinct is, it's to run away. They did the opposite of that, having no idea what they were running towards. Thank you so much for that, Layla, and thank you, Ben.
So that was Ben Davies, a former lifeguard and also the creator of Bondi Rescue. He was speaking to a Current Affairs' Layla McKinnon about the actions of local surf lifesavers who rushed into danger as gunfire erupted on that fateful day at Bondi Beach. Unfortunately, it was 28 seconds Ali spoke for after Layla threw back to her after saying that Ben couldn't read out those 7 names. 28 seconds is more than enough time to read out 28 names, as we know. But I'll defend Layla here. She's on the ground. They're doing live coverage. She's been, I assume, in her earpiece, told to rap. The producer in the control room has said rap or hard rap, and Layla knows she needs to get out there. Ali, whether she hasn't received the same instruction, has done a bit of back and forth, basically speaking and wrapping it up, and a throw to commercial break. Ali may have only been told, throw to commercial break when Layla throws back to you. Layla knew this was a problem. She went on to social media. She posted those names on her Facebook account. But we don't know what was said in her ear. Do you think for 1 second Layla didn't want Ben to read out those names? Do you think she made that editorial decision? No. She was told to hurry up. So in a situation like this, there has been a pile-on. But come on, guys, we've got to forgive live TV during tragedies when silly things like this happen and mar what has been amazing coverage from all the networks. It's a hard job being out there. There's a million things going on. She made a mistake. Give her a break. Well, a familiar face is returning to Channel 7, and it says a lot about Seven's future NRL plans. In what can only be described as a stroke of genius, Seven confirmed the return of respected sports broadcaster Matt White. White will return to the 7 News Sydney sports desk this Sunday before shifting focus to the network's expanded NRL coverage ahead of the 2026 season. So what does this tell us? It tells us Seven is going to go hard on the NRL. I don't expect them to go for the full package, but we know Peter V'landys wants to get as much money out of the NRL rights as possible. Seven have wanted State of Origin and possibly the grand final forever and a day. And now it looks like V'landys will separate State of Origin to the normal season. So the wash-up you would expect is that 9 will get the NRL season, 7 has the AFL rights, but they'd really like those State of Origin rights, because when State of Origin is on, everything else stops anyway, and it's clear air, so it won't interfere with the AFL. And imagine if you had the AFL Grand Final and the NRL Grand Final. That's some big properties to have. So make no mistake, this is all part of Seven's push into NRL territory. 9 will be spending a fortune to try and retain the rights, especially if they have to go up against digital streaming services. Netflix, Prime Video, Disney, they all have big pockets, but we're not sure whether they'll be bidding. because it's all very confusing when it comes to online rights. We could see a situation where Disney Plus or Netflix gets the online rights and a company like Nine is only left with the traditional broadcast rights and no digital streaming rights. That's not a situation any broadcaster wants. And so what we're likely to see is a network go deeper to pay for both. I had the pleasure of talking with the legendary Jamie Dunn this week on McKnight Tonight. Dunn is, of course, the creator of Agro, but also reigns supreme on radio airwaves in Brisbane and then Sydney. There's been some talk lately that Dunn and Agro could be returning to television for a one-off special with Channel 7. So I asked him for some details. Jamie, you recently posted that you're in talks with Channel 7 for a 1 hour up late special with Agro. I've got the headline here. It's been turned into a headline. Look at this. Mr. Brisbane picked up on it. They're saying that there's this up late special. Was that real?
Well, we're having a chat about it. Just only one 1 hour show. And didn't you come to the Agro Up Late in Maryborough? Was that you?
No.
Why didn't you come to that one?
You didn't invite me. If I knew, I'd be there.
Well, my mate Pete and I are writing it, and we've the opening that we've got to start off with is Agro sort of being quite sexual and so forth, and
shock horror.
And then he turns around and Fat Cat's in the corner, and he goes, "Oh, I wouldn't be laughing if I was you. You're next."
So what would the show be?
Sorry?
What would the show be, this 1 hour one-off special?
Well, for an hour of television, it's like 47 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it would be some of the goofs, like the outtakes that have had, oh my God, 6 million hits.
Yes, the one where you're swearing incessantly and doing a lot of sex acts.
No, my favourite one is where Anne-Marie, she's got this pencil with a pink sort of doll on the end.
Oh, yes, the troll.
And yeah, that's right, the troll. And Agro goes, "I reckon my hair would go like that too, about a pencil up my ass."
We got a lot of reaction to the idea of Agro coming back to TV. There is a lot of love for that character and Jamie Dunn. That special sounds like a cracker. Can't wait to see it. Well, Dunn also revealed he believed Carl and Jackie O would work in Brisbane because we spoke about radio. This is despite the issues they've had in Melbourne. But he also talked about the crazy situation with Robin, Kip and Corey, who was sacked from KISS in Brisbane last year, only to be reinstated for 2026.
Her breakfast show, all of a sudden, the fridge fell on her. And I spoke to her over Christmas, and she said, "I don't think I'll get another radio gig. I'm just having some time off to get my thoughts together." And I said, "You can come back with something. Trust me. I've seen the movie. Just settle down. It'll all come good." And then, of course, they've gone, "Oh no, we made a mistake. You're back on." How would you feel? Like, she's got to start. I don't know when she starts. It'll be around here sometime. But
I think it's around January 20. I think it's in a week or so that her show is coming back from the dead. I mean, that just gives you an idea of the state of radio. But that slot is earmarked on KISS FM for Kyle and Jackie O. Despite what's happened in Melbourne, where it hasn't worked, would their show work as a network show in Brisbane?
I think it would, I think it would.
Agree.
The problem that Robin's got, imagine your self-belief after you've been sacked, and then all of a sudden, supposedly, the audience has demanded your return. Has it? But you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So they come back. Well, that they'll need to rate. If they don't, look, the pressure on them now is massive.
Certainly is, and it's going to be a fascinating year in Brisbane radio with so many changes. But the best story of all was when he told me what happened when he was sacked by B105. This was despite the fact he was sitting at the top of the ratings at the time. When you left B105, there was a headline at the time suggesting Kyle and Jackie O were going to be brought up to Brisbane and networked into Sydney. I've actually got the headline here. Have a look at this from 2005. Dunn leaves B105, fueling Kyle and Jackie O rumours. Jamie Dunn has announced he will end his 16 years on air with B105 this December to take up the position as breakfast anchor at the Heating Noosa, fueling rumours that Kyle and Jackie O will take his place.
Bloody hell! I've never ever seen that, and that makes it sound like I resigned. But
No, that was what was said at the time when everything's nice. But you've talked openly about that.
Yeah,
Kyle and Jackie.
They took me next door to a cafe, and they said, "Today's your last day. We've got a press conference when we get back. You're finished." And like that's radio. Well, that's like of all people,
Yeah. Ida Buttrose says you're not anyone until you've been sacked in the media.
That's right. When you're in entertainment, all of a sudden the fridge can fall on you. All of a sudden, you can be number one with 27% of the market, and bang, you're done. And I was lucky enough to pick up Zinc FM up the coast. But anyway, I was around having this coffee, and they've gone, you're finished. We're going back to the station. There's a press conference. Everyone's flown up from Sydney. And I said, well, that's not happening. And and I remember Richard Barker going, no, it's all arranged. I said, if you want me to stagger around that car park crying like you've killed one of my children, you'll go ahead with it. If not, you wait until I can find somewhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
And the other guy that had the meeting with me, he turned to Richard Barker and said, he'll do it,
And he would have too. We all know that. Look, we've only just scratched the surface of that interview. If you would like to see the entire interview, just go to youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight. He talks about working with Wendy Harmer. He talks about so many things. There's so many insights. It's all there. It's around 30 minutes. It's a cracker of an interview. And I only mean that from what he tells me, not because I did the interview. He's just fabulous and very loved. Is Nine Radio giving up on video content? That's the question being asked around town after a banner was added to the top of all its radio station websites advising the watch stream feature will be removed by January 22nd, 2026. That means you will no longer be able to watch the video live streams of your favourite radio shows. Media McKnight can reveal this is a temporary measure only, while the website undergoes a major upgrade. Video content will still be recorded and posted online, but the live stream feature will be gone for around 6 months while the upgrades take place. I'm told Nine still see a lot of potential in video, so watch this space. The Golden Globes were held this week, and I have to say, it was a really watchable event. Isn't it funny to think that just a few years ago, many believed the award ceremony was done and dusted? That was after the Hollywood Foreign Press Association was accused of ethical lapses and a lack of diversity in 2021. I love the lack of diversity, considering it's the Hollywood Foreign Press Association filled with people from all around the world of different nationalities. There's a whole issue there because it wasn't about American diversity. But anyway, the awards were considered a joke within Hollywood, but one the community continued to take part in as it helped sell their movies and TV shows. It was a power grab. Many in Hollywood felt the Hollywood Foreign Press Association had too much power. They wanted to dilute that power. The awards went off for a couple of years while they worked out the issues behind the scenes, but they're back. And I've got to say, the ceremony this week was very watchable, very enjoyable. And even though McKnight Tonight or Media McKnight wasn't up for Best Podcast, I got to tell you, we was robbed. We was robbed, I tells you. But anyway, I'm here for the Golden Globes. I enjoy them. All right, that brings us to the end of this edition of Media McKnight. Don't forget, paid members of the YouTube page get early access to this video as soon as it's ready. Everyone else can watch it at 9 p.m. on Tuesday nights. That's Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Just go to youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight. I'm Rob McKnight. I hope to see you soon.